Imagine receiving a diagnosis so daunting, even the world's best doctors struggle to offer hope. This is the reality for tens of thousands of women every year facing triple-negative breast cancer, a disease notorious for its aggressiveness and lack of effective treatments. But, as of this year, a once unimaginable breakthrough is poised to rewrite the odds. The drug at the heart of this revolution? Trodelvy. Some call it a moonshot for cancer care, others warn of hard questions ahead. Is Trodelvy truly the game-changer it promises to be, or is this just another pharmaceutical hype? Stay with us as we dive deep into the high-stakes race that could end chemotherapy as we know it, and transform the global cancer landscape forever. Triple-negative breast cancer, often abbreviated as TNBC, has long been one of oncology's cruelest challenges. It's called triple-negative because the tumor cells lack three key receptors, estrogen, progesterone, and HER2, that many common treatments target. While this may sound like medical jargon, the bottom line is clear. Most of the advanced, targeted drugs simply don't work here. TNBC accounts for about 10 to 15% of all breast cancers, but it's far more aggressive, often striking younger women and spreading with alarming speed. For decades, the only answer was chemotherapy, a blunt, scorched-earth approach that attacks cancer cells, but also harms healthy tissue, triggering exhaustion, hair loss, vulnerability to infections, and constant uncertainty. Even with the best chemo regimens, hope was tempered by sobering statistics. Survival rates remained stubbornly low. Doctors, patients, and families were united by one question: when will something better finally arrive? Enter the new era of antibody-drug conjugates, or ADCs, an approach that, after years of research, is finally fulfilling its promise. ADCs are precision-guided missiles. Picture a specially engineered antibody designed to hunt down a cancer cell like a bloodhound, carrying a powerful chemotherapy payload. When it finds its target, like a molecular address on the tumor's surface, it delivers the toxic payload right where it's needed, limiting the collateral damage to healthy cells. It's a strategy that's as elegant as it is ambitious. Trodelvy, developed by Gilead Sciences, stands at the forefront of this revolution. It's an ADC that targets TROP2, a protein overexpressed in most TNBC tumors. Linked to the antibody is SN38, a potent chemotherapy agent. This pairing, scientists hoped, would harness the best of both worlds, precise targeting and powerful cell-killing ability, without subjecting the entire body to the full brunt of chemotoxicity. The journey from laboratory concept to clinical reality, however, is fraught with hurdles. In the world of cancer research, hope and hard data often collide. But the recent wave of results for Trodelvy has electrified not just the medical community, but investors, regulators, and, most importantly, patients and their advocates. Let's look at the numbers. In the recent ASCENT-04 trial, the combination of Trodelvy and Keytruda, a leading immunotherapy, delivered a median progression-free survival of 11.2 months for patients with PD-L1 positive metastatic TNBC. For context, the previous standard, Keytruda paired with standard chemo, delivered only 7.8 months. That's a leap forward that's hard to ignore. In other studies, patients on Trodelvy have seen overall response rates and clinical benefit rates that simply hadn't been achieved before. Dr. Hope Rugo, an oncologist at UCSF and leading voice in breast cancer research, described Trodelvy's impact this way. For the first time, we're not just extending life, we're improving quality of life. That's something chemotherapy rarely delivered for these women. It's not just about numbers on a chart, but real, lived experience. Fatigue, hair loss, unrelenting nausea. These are the realities patients face daily with chemotherapy. Trodelvy, while not side effect-free, appears to allow many patients to regain aspects of normal life. This qualitative impact is resonating throughout oncology. But how did we get here? What makes TNBC such a formidable enemy? And why did it take so long for the pharma industry to catch up? The challenge begins at the molecular level. TNBC's defining feature is what it lacks: no estrogen, no progesterone, no HER2. This means that hormone-targeted drugs and HER2 inhibitors, which have revolutionized other breast cancers, simply don't work here. Each year, researchers have poured billions into searching for a vulnerability, an Achilles heel. For decades, the pharmaceutical pipeline for TNBC was littered with disappointments, promising molecules that fizzled out in trials or therapies that helped only a small fraction of patients. Chemotherapy remained the backbone, useful, but never enough. Even when it worked, resistance often developed quickly. For women with metastatic disease, the cancer has spread far from the breast. Median survival remained less than 2 years. The emotional toll was immense. As one patient, Maria, shared, "Every treatment felt like rolling dice. Sometimes it bought time, but life was a cycle of hope and fear." The idea of targeted therapy for TNBC began to gather steam as researchers unlocked the genetic and molecular underpinnings of the disease. They discovered that, despite its triple-negative label, TNBC is heterogeneous. There are subtypes, each with their own quirks and potential weak spots. This meant that a one-size-fits-all approach would never be enough. That's where ADCs, combining pinpoint antibody targeting with the proven knockout punch of chemotherapy, began to stand out. Trodelvy's entrance has not occurred in a vacuum. Over the past decade, ADCs have changed how doctors treat certain blood cancers and breast cancers. But delivering this promise to TNBC was especially challenging. The hurdle? Finding a protein on these tumors that could serve as a bullseye. TROP2, discovered to be overexpressed in the vast majority of TNBC cases, emerged as the prime candidate. Trodelvy's clever engineering allowed it to home in on TROP2, then release the SN38 payload to deliver a targeted, lethal blow. The regulatory dominoes began to fall. Fast-track designations, emergency approvals, and a wave of international endorsements signaled mounting confidence. Today, Trodelvy is approved in over 50 countries for second-line or later treatment of metastatic TNBC. But now, the new data from the ASCENT-04 trial is propelling it to the front lines, potentially even as the first treatment offered to women newly diagnosed with advanced TNBC. Gilead's chief medical officer, Dietmar Berger, summed up the mood by saying, "We foresee broad first-line use of Trodelvy based on the ASCENT-04 results. This could rapidly reshape how we treat TNBC worldwide." But every revolution comes with consequences and tough questions. For all its promise, Trodelvy is not a silver bullet. Its introduction to earlier lines of treatment stirs fierce debate among doctors, insurers, policymakers, and rival pharmaceutical giants. First, there's the matter of safety. Trodelvy's targeted nature reduces collateral damage, but its chemotherapy payload remains powerful. In trials, over half of patients experienced grade 3 or higher neutropenia, a dramatic drop in white blood cells, leaving patients vulnerable to infections. Up to 12% reported severe diarrhea, and 11% had significant drops in another type of blood cell, leukocytes. Managing these toxicities takes skill, vigilance, and resources, a burden not every healthcare system can easily shoulder. Then, there's the question of resistance. Cancer is wily. Some tumors adapt and learn to evade even the most sophisticated weapons. Experts warn that as Trodelvy moves into earlier lines of treatment, resistance could develop more quickly, potentially limiting its long-term effectiveness. There's also the risk that, by using Trodelvy sooner, fewer options remain if and when the disease advances. And what about access? Trodelvy is not cheap. The cost of antibody-drug conjugates remains dramatically higher than traditional chemotherapy. For health ministries and insurance providers in many countries, this raises a critical dilemma. Can they afford to provide Trodelvy to every eligible patient? In lower and middle-income countries, this could deepen global cancer inequalities. Competition is heating up too. In January 2025, the FDA approved Dato-DXd, another ADC targeting a different marker on breast cancer cells, for use in some breast cancer patients post-endocrine therapy. GSK, AstraZeneca, and other pharma titans are investing billions to build their own ADC pipelines, scrambling to catch up or leapfrog ahead. "We see the ADC space as the next battleground for oncology innovation," said Hesham Abdullah, GSK's head of oncology. "The race is on, and patients watch eagerly, hoping that rising competition will spur both innovation and affordability." Some clinicians express caution. Dr. Sarah Tallaney of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute called the ASCENT trial results practice-changing, but emphasized the need for long-term data. "We're seeing real benefit, but we need to understand who benefits most, how best to manage side effects, and what the optimal sequence of therapies should be." Meanwhile, scientists are already pushing for the next leap. Trodelvy is being tested in combination with pembrolizumab, the world's leading immunotherapy, in hopes of boosting responses even further. Others are exploring new antibody targets, using AI to speed up drug discovery, and investing in personalized medicine to match the right drug to the right patient. The vision? A future where chemotherapy is a last resort, not the default. Yet with all this progress, real-world experience offers a sobering counterpoint. In everyday practice, outside the controlled environment of clinical trials, the median time to progression for Trodelvy remains just over 4 months in heavily pretreated patients. The median overall survival in the UK real-world cohort is about 11 months. These numbers are better than the old standards, but still fall short of a cure. The practical realities of monitoring side effects, adjusting dosages, and supporting patients through difficult weeks remind us that cancer is still a formidable foe. There's also the challenge of understanding which patients are most likely to benefit. Not all TNBCs are created equal. Molecular profiling, identifying the exact genetic and protein makeup of each tumor, holds promise, but remains expensive and complex. As the number of new ADCs and combination regimens grows, the need for smart, personalized treatment strategies becomes ever more urgent. So, as Trodelvy stands at the threshold of becoming the new standard of care, big questions remain. Will we see a true paradigm shift, or will safety, access, and resistance issues temper the enthusiasm? Will ongoing competition and advances in science push outcomes even further, or fragment the field with too many choices and too little clarity? For the doctors and patients on the front lines, and for policymakers and investors tracking the billions at stake, the next chapter in the story is about much more than a single drug. It's about the future of cancer care, the economics of innovation, and the urgent question: can medicine finally outpace one of nature's deadliest adversaries? As the medical world holds its breath and regulators weigh their decisions, one question lingers. Will Trodelvy's promise survive the realities of the clinic, the boardroom, and the global market? Or is this revolution just beginning? So, as Trodelvy cements its position on the global oncology stage, what could the next 5 years look like? Could this promise of targeted, life-extending therapy truly reshape the story of triple-negative breast cancer, and perhaps inspire a broader revolution in cancer care? Forecasting the landscape, 3 vibrant scenarios come into view. In the most optimistic, Trodelvy's use rapidly expands. Following recent landmark trials, Gilead is already racing to regulatory agencies, aiming for approval as a first-line treatment, not just in the US and Europe, but globally. Imagine a future where, instead of grim odds and chemotherapy's harsh toll, patients are offered a smart, targeted approach from day one, perhaps paired with drugs like Keytruda, ushering in a new era of combination therapy. Dr. Sarah Tallaney from Dana-Farber called the latest clinical data practice-changing. In her words, for the first time, we're seeing truly meaningful extension of life and quality of life for TNBC patients, without the debilitating effects of traditional chemo. But the road ahead isn't just paved with breakthroughs. The challenge of resistance, the tendency for cancer cells to adapt and outsmart therapies, remains a looming threat. Each patient's tumor is unique, and some already show signs of resistance to Trodelvy's mechanism. Scientists now face a race against cancer's evolving defenses. Their strategy? Personalized medicine. Molecular profiling and liquid biopsies may help doctors identify ahead of time which patients will benefit most, saving precious months and avoiding unnecessary side effects. Another layer? The rise of new competitors. Just this year, the FDA approved Dato-DXd, another ADC, for a different breast cancer subtype. Astellas, GSK, AstraZeneca, and Daiichi Sankyo are pouring billions into their own ADC pipelines, chasing the next leap in precision oncology. We might soon see a market overflowing with tailored ADCs, each targeting their own molecular bullseye. Good news for patients, if these innovations lead to better outcomes and perhaps more competitive pricing. Yet all this progress brings its own ripple effects across healthcare systems. Trodelvy's price tags are staggering, placing immense strain on insurers and public health budgets. There's growing debate: should breakthrough cancer drugs remain premium products, or do patients everywhere deserve equal access, regardless of geography and income? As Gilead and its rivals negotiate with regulators and policymakers worldwide, the true test of transformation may not be scientific, but social and political. Meanwhile, real-world adoption lags behind clinical headlines. Despite approval in over 50 countries, most patients still get Trodelvy only after exhausting multiple lines of chemotherapy due to reimbursement hurdles, caution in national guidelines, and the logistics of rolling out complex therapies to community clinics. For now, the vision of ADCs as the first weapon in the fight against TNBC remains unevenly realized. But the horizon teems with possibility. Leading hospitals are already trialing nanotechnology-based upgrades to ADC delivery, aiming to reduce off-target side effects. Artificial intelligence is being harnessed to sift through huge datasets, predicting which patients might develop resistance and suggesting new targets for the next generation of ADCs. The day may come when a woman diagnosed with TNBC has her tumor genome decoded within hours, matched instantly to the optimal drug, potentially one custom-built in a lab just for her. For healthcare professionals, the message is clear. Oncology's rules are being rewritten. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all. The age of combination therapies, fine-tuned to the tiniest details of an individual's cancer, is here. Those who keep pace, diving into new research, collaborating across disciplines, and adopting molecular diagnostics, will lead the way. But what does this seismic shift mean for you, the viewer? Whether you're a patient, a family member, a scientist, or simply someone invested in the future of medicine, the implications ripple outward. First, knowledge is power. New therapies like Trodelvy are moving fast, and so are the standards of care. If you or a loved one faces TNBC, ask your oncologist about the latest options. Don't hesitate to request second opinions, inquire about molecular testing, or explore clinical trial enrollment. The difference between life and death decisions can rest on being informed and proactive. Second, understand that cancer is no longer a monolith. Advances in molecular profiling mean that two patients with the same diagnosis on paper can have radically different care needs. Push for individualized treatment plans. If you're a researcher or healthcare professional, advocate for access to next-gen diagnostics at your institution. Third, as the pharmaceutical arms race heats up, keep an eye on the politics of pricing and access. If you believe in fair access to healthcare, use your voice. Support patient advocacy organizations, write your lawmakers, and demand transparency in drug pricing negotiations. And for those inspired by science's frontiers, there's never been a more thrilling time to enter oncology research. From AI-powered drug discovery to smarter, safer ADCs, the battle against TNBC is being waged at the cutting edge of medicine and technology. Who knows? The next big leap could come from your lab or your idea. So, circling back to our core question, can Trodelvy's promise hold up against real-world obstacles and truly transform global cancer care? The answer, at this pivotal moment, is a hopeful but complex yes. Trodelvy has redefined what's possible for those battling TNBC. Clinical trials and early real-world data show clear improvements in survival and, just as importantly, in quality of life. The most experienced clinicians, like Dr. Sylvia Adams of NYU Langone, have gone on record. Sacituzumab govitecan has, in a very real way, changed the landscape for metastatic triple-negative breast cancer. But the journey isn't over. True transformation requires more than a single powerful drug. It will demand innovations in delivery, global cooperation on access and pricing, smarter diagnostic tools, and relentless curiosity in the fight against resistance, supported by advocacy, awareness, and patient empowerment at every step. Here's a secret that rarely makes headlines. Many of the treatments reshaping cancer care today started as far-fetched experiments, met with deep skepticism only a decade ago. The lesson? The boundaries of science are always moving. What we see as a miracle today may be the standard of tomorrow, or just the first step toward an even better breakthrough. If you found this deep dive enlightening, if you believe in the power of knowledge to drive change, help us spread the word. Share this video, subscribe for more updates on frontline medical innovation, and join the discussion in the comments below. What questions do you have about Trodelvy or targeted cancer therapies? What breakthroughs are you hoping to see next? Together, by staying informed and engaged, we can ensure